On May 25, 1968, 4-year-old Martin Brown was found dead in an abandoned home in Scotswood, UK. There were no signs of violence, besides a little blood and saliva on the victim's face. There was, however, an empty bottle of painkillers on the floor near the body. Police were mystified. In the absence of better information, they assumed Martin had swallowed the pills. His death was ruled an accident. Two days later, on May 27, 1968, police were called to a local nursery that had been broken into over the weekend. The place was vandalized, classrooms were overturned, chairs destroyed. Nothing was stolen. However, police did find 4 pieces of paper that read, "I murder so that I may come back, and we killed Martin Brown. Off, you bastard." Looking at the spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, and handwriting, it seemed childlike. The police disregarded this as a prank. In the days after Martin's death, a little girl named Mary showed up on Martin's family doorstep. She asked to see Martin. His mother gently explained to her that Martin was dead, but she said she already knew that. She wanted to see his body in the coffin. Martin's mother slammed the door in her face. On 31st of July, 3-year-old Branhouse's body was found in the field, half naked and murdered. His hair had been cut off, and his body had a couple of stab wounds. His genitals were butchered. When the medical examiner's report came back, it shocked everyone. Someone had used a razor blade to scratch the letter M onto his torso. And there was another disturbing note. The lack of force used in the killing suggested Bran's killer might have been a child.
The little boy had fair blonde curly hair. He was obviously appeared to be dead, so I did all the necessary things such as obtaining the services of the doctor and the photographer and notified Mr. Burrows, who would be eventually in charge of the investigation.
I was head of CID at this time. On unusual murders, I was called out, well, practically every time. And this was a call early morning. I think it was about 1:30 or 2 o'clock, called to this scene because the boy had been missing for some time, but by that time had been found, lying semi-spread eagled, really, half naked, lying amongst the concrete and the bushes.
I noticed that there had been snippets of the boy's hair cut off and lying nearby, and his little legs showed that there was puncture wounds in the calves of the legs and other areas of the legs, and it seemed to indicate that perhaps the scissors or whatever had been used to cut the boy's hair had also been used to puncture his legs.
The first thing one noticed was the unusual cut marks to the legs. First time I'd ever seen that, of course, and one immediately could see that they'd been caused after death. I gained the impression at the time that the person responsible must have been rather young because of the gentleness of the death. It required a post-mortem examination, and that follows straight away.
The neighborhood was panicked. 2 boys were dead in as many months. The similarities between Bran's murder and the death of Martin Brown prompted the police to reopen Martin's case. The police started to question children in the area. They found that 2 children in the area were acting especially strange. There were 11-year-old Mary Bell and 13-year-old Norma Jean Bell. Police found out that some people had seen Mary with Bran on the day of his death. During questioning, Norma was excited and Mary was evasive. Mary claimed to have seen an 8-year-old boy with Bran the day he was murdered, and Mary would say that she saw the 8-year-old hit Bran with a pair of scissors. Now the problem was that the knowledge of scissors being involved in the murder wasn't common knowledge. It was a detail only known to investigators and one other person, Bran's killer. The day that Bran Have was buried, Mary was standing outside the Have home and was seen by a detective laughing and rubbing her hands together. Both girls broke down and started confessing. Norma told the police that she watched Mary Bell stab Bran Have. She also told them that Mary had killed Martin and she had enjoyed it. They were charged and trial date was set. Mary Bell was born to Betty, a 17-year-old mentally unstable prostitute who reportedly told doctors to take that thing away from me when she saw her daughter. Like most serial killers, Mary was a victim of abuse. Betty began abusing the child from a very early age. Betty tried to kill Mary on several occasions and tried to make death look accidental. One time, Mary overdosed on sleeping pills. Betty claimed that this was an accident, but a witness would say that they saw Betty giving sleeping pills as sweets to her daughter. On another attempt, Betty pushed her daughter out of second-story window. Mary suffered severe brain trauma during the fall. Mary was just 4 years old when her mother forced her to engage in sexual acts with men. Around the same time, she had witnessed her 5-year-old friend run over and killed by a bus.
Now, Betty, are you saying that your daughter is innocent?
No, I'm not saying she's innocent.
But something must have made her do these things.
Yes, something possibly must have made her do these things.
And what was it about her life and her family you think that could have driven her to these things?
Maybe it's the arguments between my husband and myself might have had some inflict on her. I don't know.
Have you been very despairing sometimes?
Very despairing, very under a lot of strain, stress, and grief for my daughter.
The identity of Mary's biological father remains a mystery. For most of her life, she believed it to be Billy Bell, a habitual criminal who was later arrested for armed robbery. But she was already a baby when Bill married her mother. Betty Bell, as a prostitute, specialized in playing the role of a dominatrix, as well as other BDSM roles, which mixed violence with sex. Betty would perform these violent acts with and for her clients, and Mary almost certainly bore witness to this behavior. Just 2 weeks before Martin's murder, Mary had been playing with a 3-year-old boy when he was badly injured in a fall from the top of an air raid shelter. His parents thought it was an accident. Just before the trial, police heard testimony from several children about Mary screaming, "I'm a murderer," and pointing to Bran Have's home and saying, "That's where I killed." She would say to women guards as she awaited her trial that, "I like hurting things that can't fight back." The trial began in November. The press referred to Mary Bell as Evil Born. The prosecutor told the court that the reason Bell committed these murders was solely for the pleasure and excitement of killing. During the trial, it was revealed that Mary was the only culprit in the Martin Brown death, although both Norma and Mary were involved in the Bran Have death. Mary and Norma revisited the crime scene to mutilate Bran's body with an M. Bran Have had no mother, so he won't be missed, said Mary, displaying no remorse.
Seeing her sitting there, you would wonder how on earth she could be involved in any crime. She looked innocent. She showed no emotion and gave her answers straightforwardly, but constantly maintained that she was not guilty of either of the killings. But there was an incident when she was being cross-examined by Rudolph Lyons, when she did become very upset. She was asked whether she had, and I'm not sure whether it was attempted to strangle a pigeon or had actually killed a pigeon by strangulation. And that upset her greatly. And we had to have a break while she recovered from this.
On December 17th, 1968, the verdicts were out. Norma was acquitted of all charges, while Mary was convicted of manslaughter because a court psychiatrist had convinced the jury that Mary showed classic symptoms of psychopathy and could not be held fully responsible for her actions. She was sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, which at the time was an indefinite sentence of imprisonment.
I did not get any feeling of remorse or anxiety. I really had something behind the glass, really. You see, most children you get to know and they talk and you get a feeling about what sort of a child they are. At least in my particular job you have to. But I don't think that with Mary one could do this.
Oh, she was an intelligent child. Oh, yes. She'd got it all worked out. She was devious. And that's very often a characteristic of a psychopath, is that they have considerable intelligence and resource and cunning. And she used those to the full.
Please, ma'am, put my tiny mind at ease. Tell judge and jury on your knees. They will listen to your cry of please. The guilty one is you, not me. I'm sorry it has to be this way. We'll both cry and you will go away. Tell them you are guilty, please. So then, ma'am, I'll be free. Your daughter May.
Mary Bell would spend 12 years in prison and was released at age 23 and given an anonymity to start a new life. A few years later, Mary became pregnant and gave birth to a child on May 25, 1984, exactly 16 years after she murdered Martin Brown. Their identity was discovered by a reporter, which forced them to flee. In 2001, Bell won a legal battle in the High Court to keep her anonymity and her daughter's anonymity for life. Mary Bell remains protected by the British government today, and court rulings protecting the identities of certain convicts are even unofficially referred to as Mary Bell orders. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Yeah, if I don't get murdered. Peace out.